Back, even before I even went to college, I had always wanted to be in the military. In particular, after 9/11, I felt I had some strong opinions about that, and I wanted to help out any way I could. And so I made a promise to myself that, I had a great opportunity here at Duke, and I wasn't going to give that up. But if I had the opportunity after to serve, I was going to do whatever I could.
In the fall of 2003, Casey Carroll, a Baldwin, New York native, stepped onto Duke University's campus as a freshman student athlete. Over the next 4 years, he became an All-American defenseman for the Duke men's lacrosse program, leading the Blue Devils to a national championship appearance in 2007. That same month, Carroll earned his undergraduate degree in history and visual arts. Still, Carroll felt unfulfilled.
My senior year, when Jimmy Regan died, one of the former players, he was in the 3rd Battalion, just as I followed in his path, and that really moved me when Coach told us about his story and all that. And I found that the best way I can kind of honor him and also kind of blaze my own way through life would be to try to follow in his footsteps there. And I did. I just set my mind to it, and so 50 year of eligibility, all that stuff, that just went right out the window for me.
In the summer of 2007, Carroll decided to follow in Regan's footsteps and enlist in the 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment of the U.S. Army. Teammate Matt Danowski knew Carroll's decision was unique, but never questioned his intentions.
Initially I thought he was crazy. Have a Duke education and, a 5th year of eligibility to play another year if he wanted to. Why he would go into the Army. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why, but that's probably why I didn't do it, and someone like him does it. I think it's something that probably runs in his family a little bit. I know his brothers were involved in the armed forces. His father was a New York City fireman. So I think it's something he probably felt that he had to do, to give back in some way.
Over the next 5 years, Carroll was deployed all over the world, but his desire to return to Duke remained unchanged. Danowski, who went on to play professional lacrosse while Carroll was overseas, stayed in constant contact with his former roommate. In 2012, as Carroll was finishing his final tour of duty, Matt was hired as an assistant coach.
By the time I went on my last deployment, I had pretty sort of made up my mind that I really wanted to go back to school and perhaps give it a shot, but I was still, kind of hesitant, thinking about the rustiness of the old lacrosse skills at that point. So Matt was kind enough to ship me overseas a couple of sticks, and there were a couple of guys who had played in high school, and we had a couple of catches, but it was sort of a disaster, probably mostly on my part than theirs,
Well, the playing was the last piece. We knew he could play. We knew that eligibility-wise he'd be able to play, and we knew that if he'd been in the military for the last 5 years and been an Army Ranger, that he certainly was going to be in shape to play. That wasn't the issue. For me, the issue was, first of all, school is a long haul, and just getting into Fuqua, into the MBA program is extremely difficult. So we had to go through that process. And then second, Casey was married. And so now being married and being responsible for another person, also was going to have its challenges. Then the third part, being a new father, was also another challenge. So, the opportunity to play was always, listen, this is the last piece of what what you're going to be doing here. And at any point, if it gets too much, you can step away. If the pressures of being a full-time graduate student, being a husband, and being a father are too much, listen, the lacrosse part, that's the piece you would walk away from.
When Carroll returned home in 2012, his wife, Erin Hathorn, a former Duke soccer player, was waiting for him. The two met during their junior year at Duke and were married in October of 2009. Erin agreed with the decision to return to Duke, despite the challenges that both knew lay ahead. In the fall of 2012, as Casey was enrolling for classes at Duke, the Carrolls welcomed baby boy Casey Patrick into the world.
The whole thing has kind of almost become more clear, because all the little in-between things where you're just kind of fuddling around, wasting time, and that kind of goes out the window. So at least with every block of time, you know that you can devote it. And Dr. Greg Dale, who's one of our sports psychologists, he's been a big help. And just, I think one of the things that he said that really hit me the hardest was, whatever you are doing, focus 100% of your attention on that. And so when I'm being a student, I'm working. I'm not perfect. I can't always do it, but I'm working to give that class 100% of my attention. And then being a lacrosse player, and obviously most importantly, when I come home and I'm being a dad or I'm being a husband, that my head isn't elsewhere. Like, you know, my head is where it needs to be at the time.
Well, in a lot of ways, he's actually better off now. You know, he's much stronger than he was when he was a first-team All-American here as a senior. And I think he is enjoying playing lacrosse just for the sake of playing lacrosse.
You always expect a certain level of play, and the last time I played was in the 2007 National Championship. So I've expected myself to just kind of walk right back into that. And I mean, from the days overseas where we were just picking it back up for the first time to today in practice, I see that I'm going in the right direction, but I still have a long road to walk there.
Today, Carroll trains with teammates as young as 18 and 19 years old, attends classes at the world-renowned Fuqua School of Business, and goes home to a loving wife and infant son. Through it all, he has uncovered a new perspective on lacrosse and life.
On the field, Casey has lost nothing. You know, he has lost no skills. He has lost no desire or hunger to play, and that's really been fascinating to watch. But what Casey has really brought to the program is this pure joy of being on the field. I don't know what it's like to jump out of a helicopter at night, you know, in Afghanistan or Iraq or the places that he was. But I could imagine that one day perhaps he dreamt of coming back and playing.
I wish I kind of had his attitude where he's here just enjoying himself. You know, usually when you're a senior, if you're a fifth year, but your last year playing lacrosse, you put so much pressure on yourself to win and, you know, to maximize your potential and all this stuff. And, you know, he's kind of playing on borrowed time, and he just wants to go out there and enjoy playing lacrosse and practicing and having fun and lifting and running. You know, that stuff's not that hard for him. Maybe because he was an Army Ranger, or maybe because just that he's just happy to be out here and not overseas.
Looks like we're not pressing down then, initially.
You know, I could never yell at him. You know, no matter what he would do on the field this year, he'd never get yelled at by me. You know, I may bring him aside and say, Case, you know, next time you're in that situation, you may want to take a look at, and yes, I will treat him differently than I'll treat an 18 or 19-year-old. But he's earned that. You know, he's earned that in my eyes. Certainly, he's here because, you know, he wants to be here, and he has chosen that. But, you know, we also know that he wants to compete and he wants to play at the level that he left at, and there's no indication, you know, at this point that that's going to be any different. And I don't think he wants that. You know, he wants to be yelled at. He wants to be demanded, you know, of things just like we would demand everybody else. But you know what? He's earned that, and it ain't happening for me.
It's just been great. I think athletes, they just love to compete, and as much as I try to find competition while I was in the military all the time, having that, you know, standard, organized competition that I just grown accustomed to my whole life, it just being out there. I've told Coach Janowski probably 20 different times so far, just I've never been having more fun in my life. You know, I just can trust my instincts, and where my instincts aren't meeting up with the X's and O's, I just have to trust the coaching staff to kind of help keep pushing me in that right direction. And I think the marriage of those two things has really really helped me progress over the fall and hopefully into the spring.